Good afternoon and welcome to the Friday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxstop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Happy post-St. Patrick's Day. I hope everybody's doing okay. I don't think you can talk, Ted, but Ted and I, we're too old to be doing St. Patrick's Day like the old days. I got a text last night about 9:30. Hey, happy St. Patrick's Day. Are you and Teddy having a good time? And I'm like, I just finished some work and Teddy's already paused up on the bed. So, yeah, not like the old days, but I don't take that away from anyone else. I hope that you all had a fantastic St. Patrick's Day where everybody is Irish for a day. Maybe it was a good escapism there for a little bit as well. So some housekeeping. You can, of course, tune in to AM 830, AM 730. You can listen to us on the TuneIn app. Just punch in WCRN, take us anywhere. Even tell Alexa to play WCRN. She'll do it. No questions asked. I'm also live streaming on my Facebook page and my Twitter page, Joe Mangi Show. That is the social media handle, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi. On my LinkedIn page, under my name, my YouTube channel, The Joe Mangiacotti Show, and even Twitch TV at Joe M Show. So several ways to listen, several ways to contact. You can call us at 617, call us at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. But text us at 617-297-8388. Our text line is up and running. Email me at textjoeintheradio@gmail.com. It appears on the same screen. And that email is only for the time I'm on the air. I keep getting emails about articles I should see or questions that you have. I don't look at that till I come on the air again. It's for on air. If you want to send an email to the radio show, very simple, joemshow@gmail.com. That's the way you do it, joemshow@gmail.com. All right. So 508-871-7000, that is the way to join the conversation. Get into the conversation as we have a lot to talk about over the next hour. We already have a phone call up, so before I get into the monologue and setting this up, let me go to the phones and get that out of the way. Who do we have, Ted? Joel. Hey, Joel. Good afternoon. Thanks for listening. Did I get Joel? I know you're there, Joel. I can see you on the screen. So as we get new equipment put in, we'll just bring you up. Oh, did we lose Joel? That's all right, Joel. If you want to give a call back, you can do that again, 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000. And for some reason, I closed out my email account. So we'll try this again. Is it Joel again? All right, we got Joel. Hey, Joel. Thanks for listening. What's happening?
Hi, Joe. How you doing?
I'm well.
Good. That's good. That's most important. Joe, did you see the front page of today's New York Post?
I did, but digital, so not the actual paper. So what are you referring to?
Yeah, the front page.
On the digital version?
No, I'm talking print.
No, I didn't see the print. I only look at it online. Tell me what the article that you're talking about is.
Front page. All the news that's fit to print.
Yeah.
Once Biden is elected. New York Times admits Hunter's laptop is real. 17 months, not 7 days, 17 months after the Post was banned, of course, from Twitter for producing stories pertaining to his involvement with Ukraine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're talking to a New York Times subscriber. The one thing you can't lose is credibility.
Thank you.
Even with left-wing whack jobs like myself. It's been going on for a long time, and it has to cease and desist.
Joe, let me say this. First of all, actually, I'm glad you brought this up. When I came in the studio, I said to Ted, first half hour, we're going to talk about Ukraine and the war. Second half hour is actually, we're going to talk about the Times, the laptop story, and Hunter Biden. So we'll reverse it since you brought it up. We'll do this first. Yes, this is exactly what I was going to do at the beginning of the second half of this hour, Joel, was to talk about this. And part of it is exactly what you said, that we had this major story, but because it wasn't coming from one of the sanctioned far left or what did you call yourself, self-proclaimed something? It didn't come from one of those publications. It was in the New York Post and Fox News. So it's very easy for the left to discount it, right? Because anything that comes.
I know.
So right, but there are other people listening. So the whole thing is they squashed this story And they even banned a legitimate newspaper, one of the oldest newspapers in the country. And if you remember back then, you couldn't even send the link in a message or anything. They would block that. Now, I think you look at these techniques that are used, and you're surprised Putin tries to use the same ones. Now, they shut that paper down. They stopped that story. So you have to ask, when we look at, 2016, Trump won big time. 2020, he didn't lose huge. And you have to ask yourself, let's do the butterfly effect type of thing. We go back, and if the New York Times did their job and didn't actively squash a legitimate story, would that have been enough for people to question the integrity of the office if Biden was elected? Would Trump maybe have pulled it off? And if Trump had pulled it off, where would we be in everything from gas prices to the situation in Ukraine? So the impact of doing that, I think, rippled through the next 3 years. And I don't think the world would be where we are today. And it's funny. Do you ever watch that guy, Trevor Noah or Bill Maher?
Oh, yeah, of course I do.
Of course you do, because they're, gurus on the left, right? And even they've acknowledged, I mean, Trevor Noah took off the other night and said straight out that this would not have happened if Trump was in office. And when he talked about them not taking Biden's phone calls in Saudi Arabia and OPEC, he said, no way. They would have tripped over themselves getting to the phone to answer that call. And I think there was humor in it, and he made it funny, but I think there's a lot of truth in what he was saying and he was acknowledging. And Bill Maher said the same thing. This would not have happened, what's going on today, if Trump was in office.
Joe, but I mean, the Times had a story. I mean, it was misspoken on the morning show. It was in yesterday's Times. They buried it on page A20, and the story is titled Biden's son paid off tax bill, but still faces inquiry by grand jury.
Okay,
on
so
page 20, and they didn't get to his involvement in his laptop with Ukraine till probably, the second to last paragraph.
Right.
I mean, this is ridiculous, and I'm a subscriber.
Right.
And also, by the way, I got a statement from the Times today that my subscription rate is going up.
So not only are they going to manipulate you, lie to you, and lose your integrity or their integrity in your eyes, they're going to charge you the privilege of this, Joel.
Joe, Marty Barron is a former editor for the Boston Globe, right?
Yep.
I don't know if you heard the name, but he's done so many great things of course, you're a conservative, I'm a liberal. He's improved the Washington Post like you wouldn't believe. When he left the Boston Globe, the Times could have grabbed him, but they passed up on Marty Barron, right?
Okay.
And their current editor, by the name of Dean Paquette, is retiring. And from the best of my knowledge, my sources say that it's a forced retirement. The guy is destroying the paper. And I want to close by saying, we all know what happened in Poland last week with Harris, right?
Yes.
And the Times hasn't even printed a word about Harris's dismal performance over in Poland. Right?
So,
and I want to close. Listen to me. I want to say this on the radio, if I may, Joe.
Sure. Go ahead.
Hunter Biden is more corrupt than the day is long. Unfortunately, I think it carries over to his old man.
There you go.
Not to say I don't support him anymore, but to say Hunter Biden, and Joe's always using excuses. He's had drug problems. Come on, President Biden. I don't want to hear that kind of bull, right?
Joe, you're 100% in your statement. And I have hope, because if you're seeing this and you're admitting this, I think this is a turning point that people on both sides are going to now see that there is something seriously wrong with that fourth estate, that element here in our society. They're just supposed to be the watchdogs, not aid and assist one particular party. And this is good. Joe, thank you for the call, and thank you for your honesty. I appreciate it a lot. I really do. And going further in what you're saying on that is that's what I am saying, is that if the details of Hunter's difficulties, and I hope Hunter straightens out. And addiction is a horrible thing. I can't even count the number of people I've driven to detox centers or getaways to get clean in my life, and it takes a hold of you, and it's a horrible thing. That being said, when you are put into a position that you can use your father's influence and position to go way above your pay grade in far as what you get for perks and jobs, it starts to play into the American landscape. I have to take a break here at 1:15. We'll pick this up for the next 15-minute segment when we come back on the other side. Join the conversation at 508-871-7000. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. Back in a moment. This is Find a Forever Home for Teddy's Friends, brought to you by Boxstrap Middlesex Mattress Outlet. Today's candidate is Scout. Scout is super smart and sweet. He's looking for an experienced dog family to call his own. This gorgeous guy is a mixed breed, yet his personality is true to a shepherd. Scout is so intelligent. He is food motivated and he loves to learn. He is excited about continuing his training with his new people. He also loves his enrichment activities that make him think. You can see how much he loves those puzzles on some of the pictures on Teddy Goodpup's Facebook page. Since Scout is big and jumpy, he is looking for a home with older teens or adults. He needs to be the only animal so he can be treated like a king. If you are looking for a sweet, smart, and active boy, Scout could be the one for you. For more on Scout, click Teddy Goodpup's Facebook page. Pictures and links to the Bay Path Humane Society where Scout is staying while he awaits his forever home. Find a Forever Home is brought to you by Boxstrap Middlesex Mattress Outlet. Click boxstrapmiddlesex.com. Say again?
Hey folks, Joe Mangiacotti here, and I have recently purged and refreshed with new furniture and most importantly, a new bed. We spend about a third of our life on our mattresses, and it's so vital we have the right one, and we don't break the bank to do that. I first bought a mattress from the big store the brothers used to own, and a power base that
first show I'm doing without a hat on.
I met John, and I checked out his showroom at 50 Main Street in Ashland and online.
Oh, nice.
At boxstrapmiddlesex.com.
I was looking for a WCRN hat. I have one in the car, but I didn't see I was going to wear the ball cap. I'm going to get one and leave it in my office area so I have it and I can switch off.
In clearance and closeouts, and he buys,
but they really do hold the heat in.
With a low overhead and just family employees, passing the savings on to you, and you can see it reflected in the price every day. Click boxstropmiddlesex.com or call John on his cell. This is his cell number, 508-579-9303. That's 508-579-9303. And you can find John on Facebook at Boxstrap Middlesex. John loves referrals, and this is the best referral I've given so far this year. Dropboxmiddlesex.com.
We know why you're awake. Your child is about to get their driver's license. Levante's Auto School offers 1-week driving programs to help make sure your child stays safe and focused behind the wheel.
877 Drive Ed. Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Learn to drive safely and efficiently. Visit one of our 5 locations throughout Massachusetts. Click Levante'sAutoSchool.com.
Levante's Auto School shows you how to learn the rules and keep your cool. 877 Drive Ed. Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN and our affiliates. To talk to Joe, dial 508-871-7000, and you can text Joe on air in real time at 617-297-8388, or email text Joe on the radio at gmail.com. And now back to the most interesting man in the world. When he drives a car off a lot, the value goes up. Common sense talk for the common sense citizen.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second segment of the Friday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxstrap Middlesex Mattress Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. The topic right now is the Hunter Biden laptop and all that goes with it. And that's because finally, the New York Times has admitted that this is, in fact, a true story, that the laptop's real, the contents are real. This is not Russian disinformation, as it was fed to us as the story was 3 years ago. That's not what was happening there. And what does that mean? It's a ripple effect through time here, because if the laptop story was real and it was squashed and it was discounted and it did not reach the majority of Americans, what would that have done to their decision-making process? And Joel, the first caller, was talking, and he said it perfectly, that Hunter's situation bleeds up into the dad. And we had Tony Babalewski, right? Remember, this guy disappeared off the face of the earth. And he was a guy that they had gone to, they, father and son, to head up legitimate businesses. He met, according to his story, and I believe the guy. You go watch his interviews and you make your own decision, folks, but I believe him, that he did meet Joe Biden on a couple of occasions. Joe Biden was the big guy and was orchestrating everything that went on. And even today, Hunter Biden is receiving benefits because of who his dad is. And the two articles that I was referenced, Joel was talking about, that $1 million. Hunter says that he had to go out and take $1 million loan to pay off taxes. And the reason he wants to make sure taxes are up to date is he's still under several investigations, and one of them is tax evasion, because he had multiple sources of income and this money flying all over the place, and he wasn't necessarily reporting it correctly and paying the taxes on it. So that's just one of the investigations currently underway for Hunter Biden. But the articles that I was looking at in the Post today were how Dem officials, the media, and big tech worked in concert to bury the Hunter Biden story, because that is a huge story. And the other article that I'm referencing, or that I was looking at, is GOP fury at big tech Dems after NYT admits Hunter Biden laptop is real. So they finally admitted that it's real, and therefore the contents are real. And more importantly, not the picture's great, right? They're salacious and oh my goodness, and he's smoking a crack pipe and he's with maybe prostitutes, all of that, we get it. And they've leaked out. And they tell a horrible story. Most of that is addiction in Hunter's demons. That's fine. And I hope he gets better. But the emails and the information about financial transactions and the moving of money and who's getting what, that's the gold mine in there. And that's what investigators need to look at. And these laptops ended up at a repair shop in New York. He forgets about them. And copies of them end up in Rudy Giuliani's apartment when the FBI raided it. And Giuliani tells the story. I watched him live on an interview, or on his podcast, I think it was, where he's talking about it. And the FBI is seizing everything, computers and so forth. And he says to the FBI, hey, you want those hard drives right there? Well, what are they? Hunter Biden's. Nope, we don't want them. We're leaving them. Well, you might think, well, why not? Understand, if they take them, they have to be logged in, documented, and then they have to be looked at and forensically taken apart, and everything on them becomes part of the case. And they just didn't want to open that can of worms. They didn't want to do it. Now, Senator Cotton has been talking about this a lot, and he's been saying, look, for decades, the Biden family has cashed in on Joe's government service. Even in a tweet, I think it was today, he said, even today, Hunter Biden is getting paid millions for his artwork in a corrupt arrangement blessed by the White House. Now, I've talked about this whole art thing. Again, if Hunter finds his redemption in art, God bless him, good luck to him. But you're still the son of a sitting president. And when they come out, including the White House, and they tell us that this artwork is going to be sold anonymously, like that's a good thing. No. We want as much transparency right now, because whoever's buying this artwork can be buying it at these inflated prices just to get money into the Biden family. In the art world, the art industry is traditionally a money laundering enterprise. It is known for that because art is subjective and the value is whatever you're willing to pay for it. But there is so much more. The diamonds, the money from the mayor's, Moscow's mayor's wife, sitting on this board, $83,000 a month, $1.5 billion to put under management. You know, he gets 1% of what's under management. Do the math. That's a lot of money. 508-871-7000. Join the conversation. Let me go to Ken, who's been waiting patiently. Hey, good afternoon, Ken.
Good afternoon, Joe. And I'd like to continue the discussion following up on my friend Joel.
Excellent.
March 15th, that happens to be historically the Ides of March, correct?
Correct.
In 2022, is the New York Times Brutus? Do they know more than we do, and it's really going to start hitting the fan, and they want to get out in front of
it? Short answer, yes. I think that two things here. I think that the New York Times knows a lot more than we know and has for a long time, and that they actively ignored it, suppressed it, and did everything they can to stop anybody from printing, writing, broadcasting, etc. about it. And I think now, for other reasons, that they are not only okay with it being let known that it's for real, but might even start pushing it. And maybe that has to do with a bigger plan on the presidency itself and who occupies the Oval and how they remove Joe. And that means orders are coming from somebody other than Joe, doesn't it?
Well, it also brings to light, who's been in Europe a couple times in the past month?
A lot
for
of
the first time ever in their life.
Oh, well, Kamala, we just found out, right?
No, the performance was awful, but why else would they even do that unless this is all connecting together?
But do you think Kamala is really the choice to fill the Oval Office?
Not long term, but they're in panic mode.
Yeah. So you think the scenario is that whether the 25th is invoked or what have you, Joe steps down, 25th, whatever the case is, Kamala elevates to the presidency. She then, of course, names a VP that has to be certified. You know, and the Senate has to ratify it, I guess is the word. And at that point, they can pick anybody in the world, from Hillary Clinton to Michelle Obama, right?
Yeah, Joe. Let's throw out the 25th. That was never going to happen. But I think one of the potential plans was to wait till like January of next year, because literally then Kamala could be president for just short of 10 years. She could be in the seat.
Yeah, she can finish that term and still run twice.
2033. Yeah. So that was one of the plans. And I think now they're in panic mode that they can't wait that long and need to make a move. So it would be whoever is these hands that are above us calling the shots is panicking and moving towards telling Joe you've got an excuse. We can all see it every day whenever he talks. Come on, this isn't too hard to come up with an excuse. All right. It's time to step aside.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like I said, as far as the 25th goes, it's always an option, but I think it will be a conversation with Joe, and that they say, you can't keep going. You don't feel that good. And how many times has Joe planted that seed? Joe Biden has planted that seed about, even the other day he was asked, are you going to run for a second term? And the first thing he answered was depending on my health. If my health is there, I will go ahead and run a second term. He talked about, even after he got elected and before he got elected, where he talked about, if there was remember the one about him and Barack, if they had some kind of disagreement, when referencing Kamala as vice president, he kind of slipped up, because he said if Kamala and him had a disagreement, he'd come up with some kind of illness. Well, why wouldn't she be the one that come up with the illness? So I think he's always kind of set the stage for that, Ken, and that ability to say, you know what, I'm not feeling that great. I don't think I'm up to the task of the demands of this office, and it would be perfectly fine. And a matter of fact, it would be respectable if he was to come up and if he was to say something like that. Hey, Ken, I got to take a break because we're against the clock, but good observations. All right, when we come back on the other side, I want to talk a little bit about Ukraine and obviously the situation we're there. 508-871-7000. Joe Mangiacotti, stick with us.
This is Full Service Radio, AM 830, WCRN, Worcester, Metro West.
I'm Ed Donahue with an AP
I did it based on that little clock up there.
Agency says nearly 6.5 million people have been displaced.
No, the little one.
Ukraine.
Big one's gone.
3.2
I'm looking at the little one, and I got out at
Linda
50
Thomas
seconds, and
the
that
US
was...
ambassador at the United Nations says Russia is lying, and it shows they are vulnerable.
We know that Russia's disinformation
I got out at 48.
is a sign of its desperation.
I got out at
Putin appeared
47.
at a huge flag-waving rally at a Moscow stadium and lavished praise on his troops fighting in Ukraine. The show of support amid a burst of anti-war protest inside Russia led to allegations in some quarters. The rally, held officially to mark the 8th anniversary of Russia's annexation of Crimea, which was seized from Ukraine, was a manufactured display of
I wasn't
patriotism.
listening, no.
Meantime, the leader of Russia's delegation in diplomatic talks with Ukraine
Which story?
said the sides have narrowed their differences. The Ukrainian
About what,
side
though?
gave no immediate account of the talks. I'm Ed Donahue.
No, I didn't hear it. Hairdos.
Meet Bob Minetti. In 2016, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Bob participated in a clinical trial that included cutting-edge radiation therapy and surgery. He's been in remission since completion. I'm Keisha Sharp. Since losing my mother to pancreatic cancer, I've been working to share the kind of state-of-the-art work being done by Stand Up to Cancer and Lustgarten Foundation. To learn more about the latest research, including clinical trials, visit pancreaticcancercollective.org.
When the forgotten poor are in need of healing, they wait for a ship unlike any other. Mercy Ships, a floating hospital staffed by volunteers, heroes of mercy who donate their time to save lives.
Every human has the right to have a place at the table of the human race.
If you could just see the smiles that you get when lives have been changed, then it would make it all worth it.
To learn more about Heroes of Mercy, go to mercyships.org.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on radio 830 WCRN. We've got sunny skies for the afternoon out there, at least looking nice and bright and definitely warm. Enjoy the 70s today because it's going to be cooler with highs in the 50s to start the weekend. We've also got showers returning tomorrow with an all-day rain risk. Looks like the heaviest stuff is going to be coming through probably early afternoon or so on Saturday. Beyond that, Sunday is going to dry out and brighten up with highs around 60. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM WCRN.
Another fabulous Friday in New England. I'm today. It is March 18th. In a hair-raising development at a time when significant issues of economics and social unrest threaten the fabric of our common good, the Massachusetts House of Representatives has turned the power up, targeting hairstyles. A bill proposed will specifically prohibit discrimination based on hair texture, braids, locks, twists, knots, and other formulations. The Western Massachusetts community of churches,
you can't legislate that.
Civic organizations and individuals is stepping up to provide humanitarian
It's like legislate, like, look,
for the people of the Ukraine. Cash, clothing, medical supplies, and food are being collected to help.
It's like legislating you can't discriminate against somebody with a tattoo.
WCRN News is brought
yes, I
to you
can.
by John the Roofer, a leader in the roofing and home improvements business for more than 70 years. Call 866-906-ROOF or go to the internet and see johntheroofer.com.
You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN and our affiliates. To talk to Joe, dial 508-871-7000, and you can text Joe on air in real time at 617-297-8388 or email textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. And now back to the most interesting man in the world, His tears cure cancer. Too bad he never cries. Common sense talk for the common sense citizen.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the Friday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxtrop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, reminding you to join the conversation at 508-871-7000. Our text line is 617-297-8388. And so the first half, I reversed the order. I was going to do this. We talked about Hunter Biden. The gray lady has finally admitted that. There's more to discuss there. And I can only refer to this, the butterfly effect on that, because if they didn't engage in that, as far as I'm concerned, when we talk about election tampering, right? Russia has nothing on big tech and the media here that they manipulated and messed with the elections in big time. We'll save that for another show and another discussion. But turning our attention, of course, to Ukraine, the civilian sites are still being attacked. In Kyiv, a school was hit, guys. The international airport, that was also hit. And of course, that's needed, right? That's how they're escaping Ukraine. That airport was very vital. We have the incident of people in a bread line. And I know that's an old term. That's an old-timey term, bread line. But it's in essence what it was. People lined up to get food. And they were gunned down by Russian soldiers. And an American was killed who was in that line, by the way. And we're watching this war live. And then I start to think about that, and I have to compare it to the other wars in our lifetime. And we saw the first Gulf War, but in a different, right? Because CNN was on the scene back when they were really a news organization. In CNN back in early 90s, they were the new kid on the block. They had sat phones, and they had the ability to have these trucks and cameras everywhere on the globe. And that was new. That was top edge. That was new. Wolf Blitzer was a young guy. And we watched the Gulf War, but on TV, right? We're watching this one on our phones, in our iPads, in our tablets, and all that. And there was actually a little kerfuffle between Greg Gutfeld and Ben Hall. Benjamin Hall is a reporter, Fox reporter, war correspondent. Benjamin is in Ukraine, was in Ukraine, and they got into this little kerfuffle over Gutfeld's questioning, because he talked about, are we seeing the same picture over and over, one picture over and over, and are we being propagandized? And I thought about that because I, too, was a younger guy in the first Gulf War, but remember that picture of the Patriot missile, the camera on the nose, going down the chimney of a house and blowing that house up. And we talked about in Stormin' Norman Schwarzkopf was up there. And I was a young reporter on a radio station doing the news and so forth. And I remember watching him on TV. And he made a comment like, we haven't even begun. We're emptying out our old stash. We haven't even got to good stuff yet. And for the first time, right, we're seeing the technology that we had that we could pinpoint this thing. But we saw that same picture over and over and over again. Now, the difference is all of the social media platforms that exist today, we're seeing raw footage from people's, cell phones. And Greg brought this question up about that. And he was making the comparison to the 91, that 43-day war in 1991. And Benjamin Hall pushed back and he said, look, no. What you're seeing is real. They're being flattened. What we're reporting is absolutely true. It's all real. What you're seeing, what we're telling you, I'm telling you that. And it was kind of kerfuffle is the only kind of word I can think of to the friction between Gutfeld and Benjamin. And a day later, Benjamin was seriously injured. And two members of his team, one a Fox cameraman producer, and one was a 24-year-old female interpreter, Ukrainian woman. They were killed. They were shot and killed while Benjamin was doing his job. Now, he since has been treated, and I think he was transferred eventually to Germany. I don't hold me to it. He's out of Ukraine. He's on recovery, in critical condition still. But this very real war almost took his life and took his life of two of his coworkers and friends. So when he said these people are being flattened, it is very real. And what is being reported is true. I believe it to be true. And I don't think that same thing. Now, is there propaganda involved here? Absolutely. And then I have to think, and I wonder, why is this war hitting our collective souls so hard? Why do we relate to this horrific war? And immediately we think we have to do something. We have to do something, even at the risk of triggering a nuclear response. We have donated millions upon millions collectively. We have sent food, clothing, teddy bears. The U.S. and other nations have sent or are sending billions upon billions of dollars of weaponry. The United States alone, 800 million. Right? We're sending the switchblades. We're sending all defensive. All defensive. And that is important, folks. Because the moment it's perceived that we're sending offensive weaponry, we're sucked into World War III further than we already are. Okay? So we look at this and we say we have to do something. Well, does the war these people, does this war and these people remind us more of us? Because for the most part, they look like us. They lived like us. Their cities look like any Midwest city in the United States, right? They wear the same clothing, and for the most part are very Caucasian looking. And when we heard the reports of the Middle East wars, and those pictures came out, they didn't look like us. They weren't the same shade and pigment. They wore different clothes, lived in very different houses. And we heard people in tribes like the Shiites, and Galaks, and Shabaks, and Abijans, and Druze. Very foreign sounding. And the average American had no idea who they were and how to even pronounce them. So did they make it easier to keep that war at a distance? They were just so foreign to us, and keep it over there, and who cares? They've been fighting amongst themselves for thousands of years. But Ukraine has been in the news a lot. Right? Ukraine was center stage in the Trump campaign, or I should say the impeachments and trials. Right? But Ukraine has been in the news. They look like us. Chances are, you know someone from that area of Europe. And they abut a NATO nation. And because of our affiliation in NATO, they abut us. And the global response has been very different than any of these other wars in the Middle East, right? And now we have China. China. What if they get in bed with Putin all the way? It's still like an old episode of I Love Lucy. They have one foot on the floor. And China is eyeing Taiwan, right? They're watching this because they've got their own sovereign nation. We want to take that real estate scenario going on. And if they move on Taiwan, will we see the same outrage? Hey, given our ties to China, we've pretty much allowed their human rights violations. We've allowed their treatment of the Uyghurs for years because of the money. Look what has happened to anyone who spoke out against China. Whether you're a coach or an NBA player, the hammer comes down, right? Nobody wants to piss China off. Nobody wants to lose that $1 billion plus in China money. And just this afternoon, Ukraine has taken back control of a small village outside the capital. That's what's being reported right before I came on the air. I can't confirm it, but the news broke. It said, hey, the Ukrainian soldiers took back a small village. Given the entirety of what we're watching, that's huge. Because they're also reporting Russians are running out of gas, abandoning their posts, and they're starving. How much of that is accurate? How much of that is propaganda? Russians went to war with 200,000 soldiers, and they reportedly have lost 7,000. I don't know how much of that is true. But there's a point where we look at this, and with the list, that list of weapons and supplies that are being sent, in the spirit and fighting spirit, for lack of a better term there, of the Ukrainian people, has the belief changed? Will the Ukrainian people, in a real David, Goliath, or Spartans 300 fashion, are they going to make us believe they can actually win this thing? And will put Putin, if back against the wall, and that being an unacceptable scenario, does he unleash nuclear option? What are we looking at there? 508-871-7000. What say you? What's your opinion? Let me go to the phones. Mark, been waiting patiently. Good afternoon. Oh, no? Oh, we got to go to a break. Oh, yes, look at the time. Mark, please hold on to the break. As soon as we come back on the other side, I'm looking at the little hand. Ha! 508-871-7000. Joe Mangiacotti, back in a moment.
Hey folks, Joe Mangiacotti here, and I have recently purged and refreshed with new furniture and, most importantly, a new bed. We spend about a third of our life on our mattresses, and it's so vital we have the right one, and we don't break
Where's
the bank
your,
if you do
how
that.
come
I
you're not
first
eating
bought
your
a
bacon?
mattress
Where's
from the
Ted?
big store,
There's Ted.
Alone, and a power base that moved the head and feet,
There's
and
Ted.
then I met John, and I checked
No,
out
you
his
can't
showroom
bother
at
him.
50 Main Street in Ashland and online at
Let him do work.
boxdropmiddlesex.com,
You
and
stay
ended
here.
up with a
I
better
brought your
mattress,
blanket in,
a
and
power
you
base
lay
that
on a
also
hard
heats and
top.
massages, all for less than half
Come on,
what you
blanket.
spend at the other place. Boxdrop is a
Blanket.
discount mattress
Come
store,
on,
and John
Teddy.
specializes in clearance and
Lay down a
closeouts, and
blanket.
he buys directly from the manufacturer with a low overhead and just family employees, passing the savings on to you, and you can see it reflected in the price every day. Click boxdropmiddlesex.com or call John on his cell. This is his cell number, 508-579-9303.
Are you able to send this?
508-579-9303.
Are we back on track? You
And
can send
find
this
John on
today?
Facebook at Boxdrop Middlesex. John loves referrals, and this is the best referral I've given so far this year. Dropboxmiddlesex.com.
We know why you're awake. Your child is about to get their driver's license. Levante's Auto School offers 1-week driving programs to help make sure your child stays safe and focused behind the wheel.
877 Drive Ed. Who's Ed?
That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Learn to drive safely and efficiently. Visit one of our 5 locations throughout Massachusetts. Click Levante'sAutoschool.com.
Levante's Auto School shows you how to learn the rules and keep your cool. 877 Drive Ed.
Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN and our affiliates. To talk to Joe, dial 508-871-7000, and you can text Joe on air in real time at 617-297-8388, or email textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. And now back to the most interesting man in the world. He brings a knife to a gunfight, just to make the odds even. Common sense talk for the common sense citizen.
All right, folks, welcome back to the fourth and final segment of the Friday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxdrop Middlesex Mattress Studios. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation, talking about the situation in Ukraine, the war going on, how we perceive it, what are the options on the table. We were going to go right to the phones before the break. Sorry about that, Mark. Mark joins us this afternoon. Good afternoon, Mark. Thanks for holding on. Do we have Mark? Yeah, Mark, you're on, buddy. You might have walked away from the phone. All right, Mark, we'll see if we can get you back there. And again, we'll the situation is that we have the civilians are being attacked. We have the whole war crime situation as President Biden off the cuff the other day, really, right? He didn't get up, and in a statement, a reporter shouted a question, is Putin a war criminal? He misheard it. And he says, no, he walked away, and then he comes back and he says, wait a minute, what did you ask? Yeah. He says, yeah, he's a war criminal. And that changes a lot of things when the president says that on the record like that. I think we got Mark back. Let's go back to the phones. Mark, thanks for getting back online. No? I don't hear Mark. Mark, say something. You had him on the phone, though, right? So he's there? Okay. Yeah. Maybe I can't hear him, and I don't think he's going out over the air then. All right. So figure that out and let me know. 508-871-7000. Maybe you can get through on this. So this afternoon, as I was saying, Ukraine took a small town. And if Ukraine has taken this small town, and this is another aspect of this, because maybe you are, but I'm not really seeing a report on what the Ukrainians' arsenal is. They're asking for a no-fly zone. And what was interesting when the initial poll was taken among Americans, should there be a no-fly zone, it was a very high response. Yes, there should be. But what I found extremely interesting is when people were explained, they understood what it meant, what a fly zone meant. I think a lot of people said, no fly zone. Oh, okay, yeah, you make a declaration, nobody's going to fly over this airspace. Yeah, that's not what a no-fly zone means. You have to enforce no aircraft flying over your country, which means you send your fighter pilots up there. And what he was asking for, President Zelensky initially, was that NATO and America enforce a no-fly zone, meaning it is NATO aircraft, including American fighter pilots up there. And it would only be a matter of time before a dogfight would ensue. And either one of our guys, American or NATO, gets shot down, or the other way around, probably more likely. Now what? Now, once people understood that, the same question, the support for a no-fly zone went down by half. And I asked the question, well, what is the arsenal that they already have? They have all this coming in that's fantastic. And then we hear about them using antiquated, or in military terms, antiquated equipment like the Turkish drones that are very effective. How many aircraft does Ukraine already have? Apparently, their pilots are very good, but they're not sending them all up. So we're not hearing all of that. We'll try this one more time. Let me go to the phones. Mark, do we have you this time, buddy? It's got to be something on, yeah. It's on his side, but he's on the phone with you. Oh, I thought I heard Mark. No. All right. Anyway, you let me know if we can figure that out. I don't know what to say. So what is it that the Ukrainians have in their arsenal? And how many planes do they have that are active, flyable? How many pilots do they have? How many more pilots than planes do they have? But we're looking at this, and Putin clearly thought this was going to be a very quick procedure. And I'm thinking the conversation with Xi Jinping in China was, 3 days. We they'll fall like Crimea. Now, I was told by somebody else in this type of work I do that they spoke to a source that has to do with the Washington Examiner. And according to their leads, this is totally unchecked and totally unsubstantiated, folks. But they're saying that back when Putin, under the Obama administration, decided to take Crimea back, that Obama was contacted by Putin and said, don't mess with this. Don't interfere with this. If I see you interfere or try to do anything, I will nuke. Now, is that true? I don't know. This is what's being said among some of the talk people and reporters, again, coming through the Washington Examiner, not the Washington Times, not the Washington Post, but the Examiner. But it was never revealed on that. But President Biden has to walk this very tight line here. And that is, when do we go from being an ally, a friend, and a supporter with defensive equipment and weaponry to an aggressive combat arena? And that will give Putin the excuse to elevate, and maybe elevate to the point that we don't want to go there. They've already used that father of all bombs, right? The one that sucks up all the oxygen. They've already dropped that. And that's a horrible way to go. And it's a devastating bomb. And these reports, if they're all accurate, or even if they're mostly accurate, about targeting civilians, civilian housing. I mean, that theater church thing that had put in big white letters in the front and back of it in Russian, children are in this building, and they dropped a bomb on the roof. Now, he just had a rally of some type, right? A gathering in a stadium of 80,000 people, and it was filled. We just got the video of this in the last 24 hours. Not even 24 hours. Because I think it happened in there today, right? They're ahead of us. And he's talking to this crowd, and according to some of our intelligence officers, a lot of people in that stadium are dissidents. People who opposed the war and spoke out. That he actually puts them in that crowd. And he's up there saying that we have got to fight Ukraine because Ukraine was the front piece for the West, for America, that we were using Ukraine to get ready to invade Russia. This is what he's telling his people. And he's even talking about in Russia itself, both on the news and in this rally, where he's talking about having to cleanse Russia, right, from the thugs and the dissidents and the criminals. And when you have a powerful army taking the real estate of a sovereign nation in terminology like cleanse is being used, there are still people alive from the late 30s who can remember similar type of language and actions. And it's got to make people nervous. So we really don't know what the man and woman on the street in Russia are understanding, because we've got a reporter who risked her life by jumping behind a live camera with a protest sign. We've got hackers who have broke in and into the media and started showing the images of what's going on in Ukraine. We've got people in Russia going to rallies and being arrested. He immediately put into place a dissident law of 20 years in prison. If you're protesting, you can be arrested and disappeared. So what's true? On hold, do the Russian people believe that Ukraine was a threat and that they have to be denazified, and that what is happening is all because it needs to be done, and that those Russian soldiers, as Putin said, fighting shoulder to shoulder and sometimes shielding their brothers with their own body, this is what was translated? Or has the word spread that there are atrocities happening in Ukraine at the hand of Putin and his military? Which is it? And how far are we willing to go? Are we willing to risk the annihilation of 3/4 of the population of the planet and the destruction of North America if this elevates? For what? And there's a lot to be said about why aren't we paying as much of attention to our own borders in the fentanyl issue here, which is not overdose. If you've ever listened to me, you know that all of these fentanyl, quote, overdoses are not overdoses, it's murder. When you lace a drug with a deadly dose of fentanyl, you are murdering. It's not an overdose. But this is actually going to wrap up Friday's edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Dropbox Middlesex Mattress Studios. So I have to say goodbye. I'll be back Sunday morning at 6 a.m. for the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Follow me on all my social media platforms at Joe Mangi, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and have a fantastic weekend, folks. Joe out.